Directors of the Village Recreation and Park District. For history's sake, this is our 1,433rd board meeting. I feel like I've been to all of them. So that, for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, do we have a flag in here?
I did.
Yes, we do. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're not following that. It's been out of sync, wasn't it? Thank you all. Jennifer, can you do the roll call?
Yes, Chair Carhart,
Here.
Vice Chair Tamani, here, Director Irwin,
Here.
Director O'Farrell,
Here.
Director Mounts has an excused absence.
Oh, thank you. At this point in the meeting, we have the opportunity for audience and public comment. I have two of them here. Do we have anybody on Zoom tonight? No. Okay. So I call on Lindsay.
Copperwood.
Copperwood.
I spoke thing down right to say it and that works.
Sure.
Right. So my name is Lindsay Copperwood. I'm bringing about this conversation on behalf of a group of parents in the neighborhood. In 2019, a proposal to build a disc golf to increase park usage and prevent homelessness encampments were approved for the Miller Park. An 18-hole course has become popular, but so have other public use areas of the park. With this increase in popularity comes increased interfacing between disc golfers and other park users. I would like to discuss the current park layout and use from the proposal of 2019. There was no apparent discussion on how the new disc golf course would affect current users of the park. And in the proposal, there is a map of safe spaces and proposed holes. The map of Miller Park shows tennis courts, basketball courts, and green space. The red line indicates safe zone where you can see the public restroom and main sidewalk are not included. In fact, there's a hole less than 10 feet from the bathroom and no more. And there's a hole that is not on the proposal that is less than 15 feet from the main sidewalk close to the bridge. About 75% of the green space has been allocated to the disc golf course, with the only safe zone being a play structure. Children and members of the setter have been shouted at and nearly hit next to the play structure in the safe zone. There is no obvious right of way for disc golfers and park users, leading to negative interactions and frustration. We have had, and many I've spoken to have had disc golfers yell to their children, telling them to move or we'll hit you with a disc. These are young children simply trying to play the park. The users of the disc golf course are not professional golfers and cannot be expected to have accuracy. Discs are thrown into the current safe zone. On May 15th, I was at the park with a group of children who had just gotten out of kindergarten, and about 20 feet from their play structure, one of the girls was hit in the face while wearing a neon dress. She had a large bump on her face, and the disc golfer's response was she jumped in front of the disc and you should have been watching her. No apology. We're lucky Lily's injury did not include losing her eye or her teeth, and what if that did occur? Who would be liable? In most precedent cases, it would be the disc golfer. If not, is the park. The kids frequently want to play on the sidewalk or bridge or in the river or creek. The hole and the knot in the proposal is right there. And if the disc golfer wants to drive, he'll yell, move, or will hit you. The disc is weighted and solid, and severe injury could occur. Kids are unpredictable and cannot be totally controlled, much like the disc thrown by golfers. The right-of-way needs to be established. If users of the park are in the fairway, do they need to move for disc golf users? If kids are playing soccer in the field, do they need to stop? Further, how is the covered barbecue area by the tennis court protected? The table, but no area around it is in the safe zone. It is not clearly posted that disc throwers are liable for injuries caused by their discs. The park could be liable since they placed the game that could cause serious injury to young children in a park that has been a park for children for decades. I would like to ask the board to consider the removal or relocation of the disc golf course.
Thank you for those comments. On public comment like this, it's not on the agenda. We can't take an action.
Yeah.
But I think it would be appropriate, how does the board feel, to ask Mike, how would you proceed on that?
Well, we've been thinking about this, talking about it internally a little bit, and what I think a couple of things could happen. One, we do have signages up there that kind of tells disc golfers that disc golfers do not have the right of way. As we know, signs are
pedestrians have right of way, but not that people or park users have right of way.
Yeah, so we could work on signage wording and stuff to kind of clean that up a little bit. That wouldn't be any real issue. Some of the challenges are that, as we know, signages are only so effective. They aren't 100% effective. I think that we should probably, if it's okay with the board, I'll investigate it, but we should probably look into bringing in a consultant and looking at the design and see if we can make some improvements for making the course more safe. And that could include signage as well, additional signage, or
How about fencing?
and then maybe a recommendation from somebody like that for fencing. The holes that they're talking about, are definitely, you clear it up if I'm wrong, but, right along the playground and out toward the creek on the side. So,
I have a picture if people want to look at it.
So-
I can show it to you, but there's literally the main sidewalk from the parking
Yeah.
lot to the school. There's a hole right next to it. The bathroom is public restroom, which was not in the safe zone. This literally right next to it. So if you walk by the bathroom, you almost get hit. There's a little creek the kids like to play with. There's 2 fairways right there. And then there's 2 holes right, you drive towards the park or the play structure.
Yeah, if you
So
have some
that's there.
exhibits you can provide to Mike. We
Well,
won't-
it's from him. They're from the proposal,
yeah.
but the proposal does not include all of the holes.
I see. Well,
So if it's all right, we would bring that consultant in and some recommendations back at your August meeting. The good part is for us, at least a little window of time while the kids are in school. So the risk is a little reduced right now.
Well, they're out of school right now.
Yeah, they're out of school.
Yeah.
So a little bit of, so giving us some time to really look at this correctly and see, I'll bring it back to you in August, if that works for you.
that would be great.
Lindsay, does that-
Yeah, I mean, the kids are out of school, so that
Yeah.
there's more utilization of the park right now, but yeah, I mean, we do what we do, right? So I'll do whatever we need to do in order to expedite the safety of all users, because ultimately, like, I can see that I don't want there to be altercations. It's getting close to that. I'm out there, regularly, and it's going to be not pretty. Yeah.
Sorry that there's been that conflict. and,
Yeah.
Inconvenience to you. I think the idea of fencing, these discs are going at a certain level for the most part. They're not too high. But if they're at the ground level, they're probably not going to hurt anything. But
If you,
maybe a series of posts with netting, something that would be fairly cheap to install and replace. But if you could look into that and then also look into if there's any adjustment of the lines of sight there. Because I can see, as a kid, I'd want to go to the creek and play in the creek.
and the
that's-
main big field is 3 fairways. So the big grassy area next to the tennis courts is 3 holes. So if you're playing soccer in the field, or if it's a hill, if you'd like to run down, it's as a fairway, 3 fairways. So.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah.
We only have so
Oh, I
much
got
time
it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
for non-agenda items, but we'll look into that.
Definitely.
And stay in touch with staff because they're the ones that will have the information. If we hear it on the August meeting, then, look at the agenda, see if it's there, and we'll have a full discussion of that then. There's a second public comment request, Nick and Darth
Clerman.
Berman.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this agenda that we should wait for, but we are trying to get more information on the park progress across the street.
Uh-huh.
We live here in the village and, we feel talking to our neighbors, like things are out of hand and we want to know what's going on, what we want an update.
Yeah, we do have
I mean, I'm sure there's information that I could get and I'd have less questions. I could just start spitting out questions, but
yeah.
I would assume,
Well, I can anticipate what your questions are because, or your
yeah,
concerns are because I've gotten those from other people.
first
One of the ones
drive.
I dealt with staff on a week or so ago was, it started to look kind of ratty out there with weeds and stuff scattered all over the site. So I talked to Mike and then Mike talked to our project manager and the contractor, and they've started cleaning things up. I'm hoping that there'll be more of that. That's one issue. There's a lot of comments we get on the time, how long it's taking with the facilities down and with, it doesn't always look like work is going on. If you're privileged like our board to go in there and see the internal work, it makes you feel a little bit better about it. But most people forget that the original
I think
contract.
most
we
people
knew-
would be allayed their anxieties if
Yeah.
the park itself was any progress. I mean, you can see progress inside. I'm sure there's a guy putting some tile or painting or spackling or something like that. I don't doubt that that's happening. If there was any progress that we could see over in this park, that's what I'm mostly concerned with, is that our kids can go and enjoy some part. The theater, people like the theater and some people go to the theater, but in the almost decade that we've been here, my daughter loves the theater. They've been 3 times. There's not that many shows, but the park is something that we all enjoy.
And it's.
So in there's no progress. And even with your privileged advantage that you guys have, I see the same thing that you see. And it's just, it's a shame. It's
Yeah.
really like,
Well,
I
we're
wanna-
still on schedule now. One thing you have to realize, we were shut down for almost a year before we even started the project because of COVID. And that.
when did the project start? When did the park close?
The fence went up 2020.
2020, the fence went up?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And it
you're
was-
So
saying-
we were right on COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. And for that first.
Park's been closed for 4 years. Wow.
So we're scheduled, I think we're still scheduled to complete, in January next year or.
Your current update is the end of December, late December or early January.
Okay, so we're beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I personally am confident when the community sees the new park, the new children's play areas, the new community rooms, the new stage areas in the plaza and elsewhere that, you'll.
Any
feel really good.
insight on what keeps the progress from happening to the park?
Well, the contractor is given so many working days, based on the amount of work that's being done, that needs to be done. And this project is extremely complicated. It has a variety of specialties, lots of utility relocations, pavement, concrete, a lot of architectural work, landscape work. We've had a lot of surprises.
They're allotted only so many working days.
Yes,
That's
and
why
they were allotted, I believe, 18 months to complete all that work in the beginning.
that
And
makes
we've
no
had
sense to
4
me. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? That makes
I
you want to
think, I think one thing that's important to note is that it's not just our contractors that are working on stuff. They have to go through the county for every single
For
thing,
permit.
every permit. And sometimes
inspection.
they're ready to go and then they go to the county and the county is like, we have an emergency. We can't get to you for 8 weeks. We have an emergency. Everyone's trees are falling down. SMUD can't get to us for another 7 weeks. I mean, this has happened over and over and over again. And then we have weird things happen. For example, we found out that the clubhouse, the foundation of the clubhouse is supported on 2 giant boulders.
You can't anticipate
We had no idea until we opened it up. So then what we had to do is we had to go, and when I say we, I mean construction people, they had to go in and build an entire new foundation for the clubhouse, which took months. And in the process, then they had to go and get more permits from the county. We also found, or the construction people found, like an electrical box in the middle of the park that someone had buried there 50 years ago. I mean, it's horrible. Like, I agree with you. I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old. When this started in 2020, my kids were 6 and 11. And when we mapped out that playground, all I could imagine was my little boy and my little girl playing on the playground. And now I got one in high school and one at the elementary school. If it was up to me, it would have been done 2 years ago. So I 100% understand your frustration, but there has been literally things that have been happening that we couldn't anticipate. Like the boulder thing blows me away. I mean, what in the world? Who thought it would be a great idea to put a building on top of 2 boulders?
In 1902, it made sense.
But that's the other thing is that we probably should have, as a community, we should have done these upgrades 40, 50 years ago. And we didn't. And now here we are, and we're trying to get them done as fast as we can. So I 100% agree with you, and it's frustrating, and I
we
hate
can
it.
go that because I'm getting all this information.
Yeah, I'm really
Anywhere we
sorry.
can go, so like my neighbors who aren't here can kind of like also maybe their anxieties are.
Yeah,
Mike, if you address.
Yeah,
that.
our website does have a weekly update. We put it up on the website, so you can check there, and it does. The cameras are going. We put them up weekly up there. I just did an update today, this morning at 8 o'clock, video update, inside facilities and outside, and discussing some of the challenges that we have with subcontractors, because of the sequential of work. So if we can't get our power done, for an example, because we can't get our inspection in, I can't get my concrete people in to start laying concrete until the inspection's done. It wouldn't make sense to lay concrete over something that hasn't been inspected yet. Because our power's underground, so.
Yeah, no,
So the other problem is that there's no place to store all the material. So in my opinion, that is the greatest eyesore there, just looking at piles of dirt, pipe, and all those things that haven't moved at all. And
The roof is just, I mean, it's like you
Right.
slap your head every time you walk past it. you know?
There's a story about the roof.
I know, I've heard, but you can tell me, you have a different story. I mean, there's stories all over the place, so I'm trying to find out, like,
Sure.
from the horse's mouth, is the purse dry? They're talking about selling a cell tower, they need more money. I mean,
Well,
what
the
is?
reason that I'm spending so much time on this is you're a good conduit to other people that have the same questions. And I think we deserve to tell you some of the excuses or the reasons so that you can pass those along if you would. But also what do they call it? The QR code or whatever it is.
Our QR code, yeah, they're on the fence. The QR
Yeah.
codes are on the fence,
That'll
and
take
that
you
will
right.
take you right to the update.
Yeah,
brochure.
I used the QR codes to see,
Yeah.
and mostly what I saw prominent was other parks. You know, like not this one,
Oh.
because this one looks like it's not happening. So there was prominently posted other stuff that has been happening and makes it looks better.
Yeah.
You know, for media than what's going on here. And, yeah, you, same as us are, we have an 18-year-old and an 11-year-old that one wanted to volunteer at the theater and and now it's going to UC Davis, and the other one wanted to play in the playground, and now she's a 7th grader. So, and then we have neighbors some of the neighbors we've talked to have little kids who probably moved to the neighborhood partly because they thought they'd be able to walk to a park. And now their kids are 2 to 5 to
Yeah.
7 or whatever, getting.
Well, I'm in my mid-70s. I want to see it done before I
Yeah,
drop dead.
And we as a board, I mean, we talk about the progress every month and every month in between our meetings too. And we keep pushing the construction company and we keep pushing the construction company to push the county and push SMUD and to keep it going. And Mike knows this because we're constantly hounding him.
Yeah.
So we have
You
your
were
voices
gonna
there.
share some information.
Oh,
Ralph?
yeah.
I think you were gonna share some information, no?
Well, probably. I mean,
About the budget.
there's so much. Well, the roof, for example, Mike can explain that, but we have a certain ventilations. Explain
Yeah,
that
we
to
have,
me.
if you look up there, you'll see, if you look from this side of the park, you'll look up on the top of the roof, you'll see 3 hatches, large hatches, and look like sunroofs almost with the hatches open. Those are smoke hatches. They're required, for that facility in case of fire, basically to vent the facility. To get those smoke hatches up there, we had to stop the roof work, to crane the hatches up there. The hatches were up there, then we had to wait for the inspection on those hatches, from the Sac Metro Fire, to inspect those and approve them before we could do anything else. During that time frame, our roofers, when we sent them away because we couldn't get the hatches up there, basically they weren't here in time. They did what they could. We sent them home. They don't sit on their couch waiting for us to call them back. Our subs don't. They have a business and they go out and they have another job. And when they clear their job up, they will then return. That roof, for an example, that's why we don't really push the roof one, because it doesn't affect the overall time frame of the project. When the roofers are available, they'll come over and finish. It won't change the opening date one bit, and it doesn't affect us in terms of the other work we have to do if they're up on the roof. So
It
they
does
don't.
affect appearance.
It does affect
looks
appearance,
like
yes. It looks like
nothing's
nothing's happened, yeah. There's an appearance factor there, I guess, of anything else. But, for us we don't get to dictate to the subcontractors, hey, drop the other job and get back here.
But don't you have a relationship with the county itself about all the permitting issues that seem to be taking place?
We do, but you can only push bureaucracy so much. They've
Yeah,
got
I
a huge workload. We have direct line to our supervisors, but even they have limitations on what they can push. As Delinda and Mike have alluded to, when one thing surprises us, like underground SMUD utilities that we didn't know that were there, and then SMUD has a whole bunch of requirements in order to replace or upgrade, then that has to be engineered. We have to go through county approval. The contractor, we have to negotiate with the contractor for the additional cost. Then we have to do that work, and it has to be inspected. You don't just call the inspector and get them out there, on quick notice. Well, what that does to the contractor, he's got, if you look at their progress bar chart, it's many different bars of different nature of work. But when one thing gets snagged, that sets up a whole chain reaction down the line of other work that was dependent on this being done. So it is rather nightmare. I would not want to be the contractor. I'd rather be the owner here.
There's a lot of chatter about, ADA, work that, was not done on the theater that they're now having to do after the fact, where, they should have done it first. Now they're having to go in there and demo some stuff around already.
We're going to be dealing with
Is
that later.
chatter? Is that true? Or is it?
Yeah, we'll be dealing with that later in the agenda
Okay.
because we're going to take a vote on whether to do that work and how to fund it. That's tied into the cell tower sale too. So there's a couple items that if you want to stay for that. Initially, when we scoped the project, we had a plan for making it somewhat ADA accessible. We didn't go any further because of the cost and because if you go a little further, you have to make everything, you trigger a complete ADA change. And one of our big problems there is the slope in the amphitheater exceeds the required slopes. So we deferred that. We were going to handle it a different way. But in the end, thinking about this, hearing public comment, you know, we're doing so much to make this facility good for another couple generations. And we were going to keep the old wood bench seats with splinters and stuff. No, so we decided, let's look for some money and do that. And so there'll probably be a discussion of that later in the meeting. In order to find money for that, because we've spent as much of the bond money as we want on this project, we have other things that we've done and want to do. So, you know, this alternative source of funding may enable us to, you know, put the finishing touches on the thing. The facilities themselves are going to be amazing when they're done. We've got acoustical design of the Black Box Theater and stage. We've got 3 new community rooms, a lobby, bathrooms galore throughout the park. We've got an amazing children's play area that's coming in that ranges from way up on the top of the hill all the way down into the village park. So you ought to see in the next 6 months some really rewarding things happening. I hope you do. And if we don't, I hope you're back here to light a fire under us and we'll light a fire under everybody else.
And if I may,
Yes.
feel free to contact me directly. I don't mind sitting down with coffee with 3-4 people and, you know, pepper me with questions, you know, and concerns. And some of them I won't give you a great answer you won't like, but those are really important things to do. And I'm
Because I
happy
walk
to do
past
that.
it all the time. Can you tell me what's going on with the elevations for these parking spots in the street? Right.
That's a long conversation and
That's a long
yeah, that's a
conversation.
long
It looks like a
conversation.
long conversation.
That's a couple of cups of coffee.
Add that to the no foundation.
But we are going to be talking a little bit about that tonight, but not necessarily the elevations, but some other elements around that.
Keep in mind, the roads were laid out in 1895. The plaza was acquired and has changed since the 1920s. The clubhouse was the basement of it, and the footings and all of that were built in 1902 for the original schoolhouse. And the upper part was built by the WPA and the community in 1937. So we're dealing with a lot of old stuff. And over the year, and the park district's only been around for 46 years. That used to be the school district.
75 years.
Oh, yeah.
45.
So I meant to say since 1946. So they're 45.
October 8th.
I was a young kid then. And my parents gleaming eyes. So there's a whole lot of surprises there and no as-built on anything. So it wasn't to be, we knew there would be some surprises. We just didn't know there'd be as many as there are. So.
But thank you for coming today.
Yes.
We really appreciate you coming and talking to us. And I hope that some of the stuff that we've shared with you tonight that you can share with your neighbors, because I'm always trying to share with my neighbors as well. And we definitely feel your frustration. And so we all want it to be done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So that was more than the 6 minutes allotted for public comment, but it was worth it. So thank you for your input. And we'll be investigating the disc golf issues there too. So with that, let's move on. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the consent calendar, are there any questions on the consent calendar? Jen? We're good? Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to, and we have glasses and could see, that brings us to new business, I believe. Yep. And item 7.1 is a discussion and possible action regarding approval of a change order for Bobo Construction in the amount of $399,777 for the Village Park renovation project. And Mike, you can explain what that's all about.
Yes, I'm sorry that I'm gonna struggle with this a little today because, Dave, our construction manager from ICS is, ill and he is unable to, he was going to be here and be really the lead on this discussion. I'll try and go forward with it. And if you get to a place, you get to a place where I can't assist you, I would recommend that we defer this item. It is a kind of a complicated item and I don't want to do it a disservice or to create information that is going to make the decision.
Well, let's hear what you know about it, and then if we have to take it to the next meeting, it's only 30 weeks away to the next meeting.
So what we're looking at here is a $399,777 scope change, cost change to Bobo. You have already authorized their schedule increase because of the rain delays. And if you recall that meeting, it was a rather long meeting when we went through that. Works out to be about 176 rain day delays that have been approved at this point in time. In those rain days, during those timeframes and the extension of the contract, there is cost associated with that to the contractor, including their staff that is on payroll. So there's foremen, the superintendent, the other folks like that are right here on site all the time, at the full-time job. And then there's the insurance costs, the porta potty rentals, their bonding costs. All of those continue to daily rate up. And it's $2,257.35 per day, based on those costs. And those costs have been vetted and approved, not approved, but have been identified as correct through ICS. Bobo presented them. ICS went through it. They've been working on this for a number of months to justify the cost and to get it to a place where it is defendable. It's hard to swallow these things, but it is a defendable cost. We were able to credit them, Bobo 14, well, we received the credit of 14 days for yearly weather delays. That's based on the average winter. When they did that, that's part of the bid, that they know they're going to get 14 bad days. Our site itself is challenging. It can rain one day and it will not dry out for 2 days.
And that was 14 days credited out of 170 something.
Yeah, 176, yes.
And is the 176 include the credit?
No, it does not include credit.
So
The credit's already out of that, so
Oh.
176 is total.
The net.
How many months is that? I don't know how many hours how many working days or working hours in a month.
I don't know off the top. That's a good calculation.
Before I was thinking
Yeah.
it was about 4 months of delays
Yeah.
due to that.
176 days. It's about a little over 5.5 months.
Yeah, and we remember this too. This is an important thing. California had been in a drought. These last 2 winters got the entire state of California out of the drought. So is this an unusual situation that we've had these last 2 years? It's unusual in recent times, yes.
Well, if I recall, most of this rainfall occurred in the early phases of the project where they were doing demolition and doing grading and all that rough work, and that really.
And we're still in rough work. I mean, if you look out there today, you'll still see holes being dug, right? So and even if you're not digging the hole, you can't even walk around the site. It is that without any kind of containment of that water in there, it is a sloppy mess. So we don't even go over it during that time. But you can work some inside, but it's still limited, especially with the amphitheater building as we're building that new. And again, structurally, you can't do certain things. We can't lay flooring before we paint. That just doesn't work. So So that's really what this is about. We're asking for the approval. I'm asking for the approval to sign that $399,766 change order, or $777 change order, excuse me. And that's about the limit of my ability to explain this.
So, what is ICS told you about? Is this normal practice in the industry when this happens?
Sean, do you recall that in a conversation like that?
I do believe that Dave had mentioned that some contracts normally call out a maximum amount of rain days that can be excusable. We did not call out a maximum amount of rain days in our contract, so it's accepted practice, but I don't think there's just a standard way everybody goes about it, because some contracts call out max days and some don't.
So what are the provisions and specifications of the contract documents that provide for this, or is this something they're just requesting?
No, the statement.
While you're doing that, can I ask the rest of the board members, is this what Mike has explained so far, giving comfort in moving ahead on this issue, or should we defer it for 3 months, 3 weeks?
I would like to.
The one thing that hasn't been said, which I already discussed with Mike, is the question, to your point, what he was about to say, of who's really at fault and what is the laying ground. And basically, there isn't. And so it's a much more questionable decision on the 3 types, and Mike had said it. I can't remember what the names of them were, Mike, but it's either blank, a blank, or blank.
Excusable, compensable, or the other one means we were at fault.
And so it's one of those 3. So they're clearly taking the stance that it is ours, and so they want us to pay for that. I don't fully believe that we should acquiesce to that stance, so I don't feel comfortable saying yes to that.
John?
So if we don't pay it, they just sue us.
I'm not in any kind of privy to answer that question.
I think that, I'd like the opportunity to talk to my old pals at Caltrans and see how the scope is that, because I never heard of that in any projects I ever worked on. You know, we had a certain number of working days, and if it wasn't done, contractor take a fine for every day over. So I'd like to find out if that is standard practice. So, John, do you think we should table this then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Move to table it to the regular August meeting. I'll second.
And also,
Yes.
I'd like to have a copy of the contract within the,
It's July.
July.
Sorry.
July.
I'm sorry, July.
Thank you.
we have a copy of the contract too, but within the board packet. I didn't see one in this,
You're talking about our contract with.
our contract with Bobo that lays out the.
But it doesn't lay, that's the thing, it doesn't lay out black and white for what they're requesting.
Well, I know, but I wanna see like, what are the 3 different types, and then also I wanna see what is, I mean, cause if they don't complete the, I know there's a clause in our contract that says that if you don't complete it in a certain amount of time, then it falls on them as well, and so I just would like to see the contract again.
Me too.
Is
And,
it-
If I could, I would note that Dave had noted that fighting them on that clause has been traditionally difficult if it gets to a court. The days the contract does call out the differences between those 3 different types of delays, and that's easy. We can highlight that.
Yeah. And in your packet, you did have the terms associated to that 1401, 14. So we can still give you the full contract. It's 100 and some odd pages.
so between now and,
Email it.
Yeah.
between now and the next board meeting, you could feed us information, or Dave could feed us information on the justification for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to deal with in one short session meeting.
Yeah, and especially coming from me, it's a little harder.
Good job there. Better than I do. So, there's Did we vote on this? Was there a motion to
Yes,
table it?
and there was a second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That's one item down. 7.2 is a discussion and possible action regarding approval of an amphitheater seating plan. Okay. Who's going to present the details on
I
that?
will be doing that. So this one has a little bit of a, kind of a challenge, with it. One is that if we're going to do this, if you vote yes to do this, we currently don't have the funds in Measure J for this. We have talked about the cell tower. So anything you decide on this one right now, because it's out of sequence a little bit, that it will all be pending if you approve the staff recommendation. Well, it's all pending if you approve the cell tower sale. So you can approve the seating if you decide to do that, but the caveat is later in the meeting, you may not approve the tower. So, and
Why, you offered up, two different ways to approach this. One was some kind of a lease, borrowing the money.
borrowing money, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, when we get to that, I have some questions.
Okay. All right, so I'll start off here with basically the staff report here. And the reason why why we're looking at the seating now, and this is a kind of one of the things that if we could look backwards, if we had hindsight, we would probably have had made this decision much earlier. And when we were doing design and work on that, made the determination that the seating could be done in a different phase. And we would come back at some other time and do it. As we got further into the project, realizing that the look of the seating and the look of the amphitheater seating area with the brand new facility was not necessarily the best of things. The other piece we realized that once we close that facility up and we get all the concrete in and everything like that, it is going to be much more expensive to get inside there and do the work, and a lot harder and a lot riskier. A lot riskier to the renovations that we have currently done inside that facility. So getting in there to do that work, and this is heavy work, you're tearing out asphalt and putting in concrete, regrading. So it is work that requires not a shovel and not a sledgehammer. It requires large pieces of equipment, as well as moving all of that waste out of there and getting it disposed of. So that all those things would have negatively impacted the operations of the project. So it was determined to come back to you all and say, hey, let's try and do this now if we can. Volvo came up with a proposal for it, a ROM, if you will, of over $970,000. That ROM is a rough order of magnitude. It is usually high, a price high. We did go back to Volvo. We worked with them to get the cost as best as we could for this moment in time. And the cost has moved from that 900. Sorry, I got to get my.
Like 777.
Sand them and on them and put cushions on. Save $1 million. How about that?
And that's a fair point. The challenge is that you still got a subsurface area that is deteriorating and is going to have to be replaced at some point in time, especially after we've gone through it, while we're doing other work. It can hold up for a while, but it's going to have to be taken care of. Once you touch that, it's going to trigger all the other things that are associated to what we're doing, including site lighting, aisle lighting, the slopes, the spacing of the seating, all those things like that that would require approval from the county for this process. So yes, we could continue to have the wood seating, but all we're doing is kicking a can down the road and then increasing the cost for that work at some later date, whenever that would occur. So it's something that's not wonderful how it all happened, but it is what it is at this point in time. I don't like that statement, but we're trying to make the best we can with it and come in with the seating.
Are you privy to how they would access that? Would it be through the front of the arts and crafts building there over the grassy area? Or would it be between the the snack bar and the restaurant.
Yes, it'd be good. And well, we come in from the way you used to enter the amphitheater when you walked in. So that's how we'll be going in. Yeah, and out. So that's,
So it comes in off of California Street, not off of Park Street.
yeah. And so the old cost estimation was $904,000 and $904,935. New cost estimation is seven. We're not gonna get my numbers here. $777,248. So a reduction from the ROM of 127,687. Now this would include all of the design, permitting, construction documents, oversight from the architect, for construction, and then all 491 chairs, I believe, or 490 chairs, all the aisle lighting, chair installation, and then the construction, the demolition, removal of the existing asphalt and benches, and then the construction of the new area, including the grading, and the surface for that. There is a 15% contingency that we've put into there as well to get that. And so what we're asking for is the authority to sign the change order when it comes in. You're still going to see it, but allowing us to go forward with getting this work started.
Yeah, now, Mike, we've already paid for architectural plans. I don't know.
We're on the hook. We're on the hook for that regardless.
Is that part of the 777?
Yeah, you're on the hook for $60,295 for planning on that project. So
that
Tim's
we
on
pay-
this too.
That we pay regardless, and then that includes the alternate one for the seats, the cheaper version.
Yeah, the blue solid chairs. Yeah.
Well, they were the most comfortable.
Some people, I
sat in one. I think Belinda, did you sit in one too?
Or did they bring them out here?
yeah, they're out here. They're right there.
No, they also had them at the Garden Gallop.
Oh, yes, I was out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's the solid blue one.
solid one. Yeah. And those are like under 200 a piece versus 400 a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now Tim's on the Zoom here. He's our architect for this project with WMD Architect, and he can add anything he needs to or answer any additional questions. I may have missed the construction piece, Tim, but hopefully I stated that right about where we'd be accessing.
I'll turn it over to you, Tim, but first I want to say thank you for expediting. This is quite a bunch of plans and estimates you came up with in short notice.
Yeah, well, Chairman Carhart, members of the board, good to be with you this evening. Yeah, Mike, I think you gave a very good summary of what's in front of the board. The some costs, if you will, or costs that we have expended to do the design and prepare the construction documents is somewhere around about 40,000 out of that 60, and the rest is during construction administration, getting it through the final construction of the project and overseeing that. So yeah, I'm open for questions from the board if you have some.
One question I have is that estimate, have you in your plans run this through the county or that process at all, or in consultation?
The field change, we've submitted it to the county building department as a field change for them to review and approve, and that is in process. We do not have comments back from them or indication of what their review is yet.
Okay. Otherwise, it meets all the state requirements for ADA, I assume.
Yes, correct.
Questions from the board?
Tim, or I guess first to Mike and then to Tim, the 27,935 from Shalek. I don't see that, what that is in here. I see a lot of other change orders and scopes. Why don't I see that what the 27,935 is encompassing?
I'm going to defer to Tim on that.
So Tim, what is that? Where is that? What is that including? What is that covering?
Yeah, so, Director Irwin, Shallot Consulting provided the design for the theater layout. They do theater design throughout the United States and actually throughout the world. So we depend on them to bring us the most current standards of layout and design. We went through several, well, actually numerous alterations of seat numbers and seat spacing and seat width, as well as accessibility approaches and different variations that they helped us get to the final plan. Their construction documents, basically they prepared all the production seating construction documents, which included the layout, research with all of the seating companies, procurement of seating bids, the seating samples that you all tried. They are the ones that arranged all that. They prepared plans and specifications. So there's new specifications that were written for the production seating, as well as the production seating lighting and lighting coordination with the electrical contractor. And they provided seating details, including the seat lighting connections and the removable seating details. So they've really provided a lot, of that 27,000, I believe about 20 of it is through the construction documents, and then the remainder is assisting with the bid process. They help get ICS to work with the bid the seating companies to procure bids and review the bids as well, and then they will work with us through construction and the layout and approval of shop drawings and submittals, and finally, work out any construction issues with us during construction.
Is
So
that,
they're an invaluable piece of the team to make this happen correctly.
so Tim, this is a specialty that rather than handling it yourself, you went to the experts like we did with acoustics and all?
Well, yeah, we're involved with this, but they bring the expertise of doing this in multiple venues. So we very much appreciate their expertise on helping us do this.
Tell me, is that amount included in your 60,295?
Yes.
It is. So that was a big chunk of your cost then.
It's the largest piece, yes.
Yeah, one other question is, all this, if there's changes or there's things that have to be done in construction oversight, that would add some design cost to the overall estimate.
Well, it would only add it, if the scope changed. So if you change the seating layout or something was directed to be different from the board, to change something and, add, I don't know what it would be, but change the seat type so that we have to do a different layout or whatever the issue is, there should not be any design changes unless that occurs.
So your fees and their fees are fixed unless there's a scope change.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So Tim, did the theater consultants, they put together the design, the layout, the construction documents?
No, they prepared the production seating layout and the production seating detailing. We provided all of the coordination of interfacing with the existing conditions around the facility, all the new grades, laying out. We collaborated with them on grades and grade layout. We provided all the structural detailing of the concrete slabs and how that is to be constructed, along with expansion and control joints and detailing with new railings. There was a lot of coordination that we prepared, and our office put together the package that includes the architectural component, the demolition, the architectural plan of the concrete base, if you will, of the seating area, the floor, and then we coordinated the electrical lighting, electrical approach to that, as well as then the theater consultant, and we packaged that all up and then submitted that to the county.
So all the plans are under your name, right? And you're the architect of record then. And you've done the specifications also already.
Yeah, that's correct.
Remarkable, and I'm impressed by how quick you pulled that all together. Other questions from the board, James? Do you have one?
I don't understand though, why don't I see a change order specifically for the consultants? Unless am I somehow missing?
They're under Tim,
So,
like a subcontractor.
got it. So Tim, we've used these people before. Has this always been as a subcontractor under you, and I somehow missed that?
Yes, the theater consultant and Charlotte Collaborative. Yes, they worked on they basically advised us on the design of the theater itself, the stage, the community room, and all of the theatrical and AV components and equipment that are a part of that.
Are there other questions for Tim? Well, thank you, Tim. Again, thanks for your hard work on this and other projects for us.
Absolutely, we all are, and like the neighbors and the board, we are excited to see this thing finally come to completion.
We'll plan a big grand opening come next February or January. Okay. So the action, I guess, is would be a discussion or a motion to approve the amphitheater seating plan.
And also would you authorize me to start the process with the contractors and everybody else to get this thing rolling. Again, you'll see the PCO, the change order, come back through, but it'll be that much money that you've seen or a little bit less.
I did not find the staff report on this itself, which probably outlines an appropriate motion, is there?
No, because we did not have all of the stuff, but the recommendation is that the board directors approve the construction bid from Bobo Construction for the renovation of the seating area in the Veterans Memorial Amphitheater. And that amount, it's out in that board report, that amount was
777, 200 something.
We'll talk about, when will we talk about funding sources?
well, yeah, that's the thing, is you're out of sequence a little bit here because without the cell tower money, this is a moot point.
Well, I was gonna suggest that we take item 7.5, put a pause on this one, and then see where we go.
That work? We don't need a motion to do that, do we? Okay, well, without closing item 7.2, and let's see, if we go right to 7.5, let's open up 7.5, which is discussion and possible action regarding approval of sale of Miller Park cell tower leases.
Yes, thank you, board. We have discussed this back in your May 15th meeting. You authorized me to proceed with allowing NAIA, which is a cell tower consulting firm, basically. They allowed NAIA to solicit bids for the potential sale of the cell towers. From that solicitation of bids, we did come back with 9 bids for it, and ranging from $2 million, just over $2 million for a 99-year retention of that lease and a 1,000 square foot expansion potential with a 50% revenue share. That is the high bid. The low bid on that on this whole project or these bids was $1.5 million and a perpetual holding of that lease, so a forever holding of that lease. So
it's still around in 100 years, we get it back, right?
we renegotiate.
You can do those negotiations.
And so the consultant, everybody says that this was an incredible opportunity, and the bidding and staff is recommending that we accept the PowerPoint bid, and you authorize me to work with NAI to get the documents that we need to get to our attorney and confirm that the sale will go through. They will work through the closing process with us. We will have our own attorney confirm everything in terms of the documentation.
So the sweet spot is that any new tenants that go on the tower, we get half of the monthly rental.
The extension, the expansion, that's how we.
Yeah, new.
Yes,
New.
yes. So
What do we get from the cell tower now on an annual basis? Is
yeah,
it
just over 9,000 a month.
9,000 a month, so almost $80,000, $100,000. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So my question is that, you know, you also described this real property direct placement lease, and we could borrow $1.2 million. And my question is, the cell towers are an asset. They're going to continue to produce for time. Why would we not consider doing the real property direct placement lease and use the revenue from the annual revenue from the cell towers to pay it down?
Yeah, it would be, it's a long payback, number one. And I don't have all my notes from that last meeting, but I want to say it was a 10-year payback. And it was double the amount of money in terms of the actual payback versus the loan value. So that's always a hard pill to swallow, that you're doubling the amount of money that you owe because you borrowed on time. This gets us not into a debt piece at all. And then if we are able to use the proceeds from the cell tower sale for other revenue producing options, we have the opportunity to potentially meet or pass the $9,000. An example is the seating in the amphitheater. We can't qualify it right now. We have no way of qualifying it, but will it increase sales? You know, with an improved seating situation. I believe it will. I can't prove it.
I certainly hope it will.
Yeah, I hope it will too. And then that is only a portion of that money. If we were then to take that other portion of the money, look at another revenue operation, let's just say we worked hard for the RFP for this facility here, and this went into a public-private partnership, and we received some kind of rent from this facility. Or we took some of those additional funds from the sale of the cell tower and reinvested them, like we did with our bond funds, into an investment-bearing account. We only have certain ones we can legally do. Though that interest over the long term and the interest, the extra sales potentially from the seeds and whatever else you all decide to do revenue production, I would only recommend that we come back to you, not for one-time items, but for items that would be potential revenue producers for using that money. So we continue to look at them as a revenue growth and not as a revenue reduction.
So you'd end up with the difference between 777 and 2 million was what, about 400,000?
Yeah, I think our net estimation for the actual sale of the tower, this is the estimation, is 1,948,250. That's after closing costs and all the things that we'll have with the cell tower. So we won't net 2.2 million. It'll just be under 2 million.
I'm trying to think how much money we'll have besides paying for the seating.
Well, if we just took the
Little over $1 million.
$948, about $1 million, yeah,
Really?
about $1 million.
What would you do with that money in the interim? Can we put that into an interest-bearing account or something?
in, but we would get interest from the town.
Yeah, until you decide either to put in a long-term investment, which we're allowed to do, or use for other purposes.
So what kind of, growth would that have? In the
In-
county?
In the
funds?
counties,
County pool, 3%,
It's about
4%.
3%.
3%.
So,
It's gone up.
Yeah,
a bit,
barely
though.
keep up.
Barely
with
keeps up with
inflation.
inflation.
What's the other alternative?
The one we were looked at, and again, we'll have to come back to you, but I won't say the name of it, but, the current report from it has a 5.48 return. And no, we have to come back to determine where we would put that money. That has to be your decision.
Are we unable to use the new grant money that the district recently received from office or from DA's office?
That's defined, so that fund, we have to spend it on a defined project, and that is for ADA access, related to the road and into the park.
Spent already, yeah.
Yes, I'm afraid so. But it does reduce our amount of Measure J funds. So it does increase our Measure J funds because we're not having to spend those on that instead of present.
Should have said obligated.
Is it possible to move that money to spend the video money as it's restricted on the, the ADA and the road, but then what was saved by when we take those Measure J funds and use that for empty or CD?
Potentially, yes. Yeah. We would have to know what kind of savings we're going to see though. That would be my fear, is that we may not see the savings, enough savings, from the road work to pay for the amphitheater seating. As we've known in this project, there is something wrong out there. There's something wrong. There's utility too low, buried too low. There's something wrong, and it's going to take us time and money.
We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, we just don't know what it is.
Well, I remember when the cell towers went in. In fact, I was on the CPAC when the first cell tower went in Fair Oaks. And they had all kinds of experts there to convince people they wouldn't get irradiated, from the thing. We got these for free, and we've gotten revenues over the years, for a small footprint out of our park. I just wish we had cited more of them in our parks, because at this price, this is kind of like manna from heaven here. I mean, we didn't pay anything for it, and they're worth over $2 million.
Well, we lost an opportunity when they put the cell tower on the church property, the old Bel Air site.
Yeah. And the VFW's got one in Phoenix Park there that they're not getting what they should get out of it. But, I, for one, think this is manna from heaven, and I just don't trust the technology. We've seen so many changes in the last couple of decades. I wouldn't be surprised if they beam these things from satellites in the future and abandon all their cell sites. We just don't know what the technology will be in 17 years, and I'm of the opinion, even if we weren't using it on the seating, to take this money while cell towers are still considered good investment.
It's a lot for expansion, though, so they're gonna take another 1,000 square feet of the park to add more towers.
It's 100 square feet.
100, okay.
Thousand. And we
In
kind of,
addition to what's currently there.
yeah.
And they'd be working with the district as to what that footprint actually looked like.
Okay.
And it would be adjacent to the existing sites, not
Like
another
this.
section of the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who would be responsible, say they do become obsolete? Like, who's responsible for moving up to, that would be responsible for that, that?
The agreements state that the cell tower company is required financially for the removal and to bring the site back to its conditions that we accept.
Questions from the board? The big question, and I think we discussed this, I don't know if John, you were around when we did it at a previous board meeting, was whether we go with the loan or whether we go with selling the cell towers. I, for one, would want to sell the cell towers, even if we finance the seating a different way. What's the general opinion?
I have mixed feelings about it. I think mostly because it is a revenue generating asset and we did not pay anything for it, so we have all that equity, if you will, in it. And I would love to be able to find another way to fund the CDM
the theater, but I'm listening, and it does not sound like there is another option. Sounds like this is really
Or
our
at
only,
least not at this.
not as.
I mean, there is a part of me that thinks that what you had said earlier, Mike, about waiting to see what how the rollout will go in terms of moving, again, using the money from Padilla that we then using on the road, and then we can take that money that we had allocated for the road and perhaps use it on the theater. Granted, we don't know if the road is gonna end up costing more than most likely will. It seems like everything costs more than you think it will, than we think that it will. But there's a part of me that thinks, well, like, I mean, we know that it's worth $2 million. Like, is there a rush to do it right now? Can we wait?
Yeah,
Can we wait and do this sale in 3 months when we know exactly how much money we need?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And here's the other thing about the Measure J funds, and maybe I haven't been real clear on the Measure J funds. There are still some ancillary projects that would be very desirable for the community for us to do and not spend down to zero and then borrow everything, take every opportunity we have internally to try and fund this thing. So we have no additional money, for an example, of this thing. Right now, we had looked at all of our impact fees and putting them into this project, which would zero out the impact fees and not allow us then to go after additional improvements for girls softball or something at Phoenix or, you know, whatever the case may be. It puts all of the monetary eggs in the one basket if we don't go this route.
This would give you extra money to do the parking at Phoenix, Field.
Potentially, I mean, it opens an opportunity. It really depends on how much is there at the end of the day, too. There will be something. Hopefully, there'll be something at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But if we don't do this, we will not have anything.
Well, so many years, you know, when I went on 20-some years ago, we were spending a lot of money because we had a lot of state money to do improvements. And then we had a huge dry period for God, how long? Well over a decade where we weren't doing anything and our capital program disappeared. So while I'm still on the board, I'd like to see investments for the future. And I think as far as recreation and facilities in Fair Oaks, the public appreciates good seating and parking and those kind of things more than they do owning, you know, getting revenue from the cell tower. I tell you, the days when the first cell towers went in, and John would know this, most of the people didn't want them, and many of the owners really didn't want to take that leap either. And they turned out at that time to be a real good investment. Sure. But I'm not sure they're a good investment now.
As time will tell. Raymond, you've been pretty quiet over there.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay.
So, I would recommend that the district sort of sells, the cell tower, lease tower point for $2,055,000. Terms including 9-year lease, option to expand lease area, 1,000 square feet, 50% revenue share. It's located expanded tower area. I'll second the motion.
Is there further discussion? We don't open this up for public discussion, do we? This is not part of public comment. Public comment? Any public comment? Okay.
You're moving to sell the tower.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, well then, all in favor? Aye. Linda? Nay.
Selling the tower? I don't like the idea either. Seems like a pretty decent cap rate that you're getting rid of, you know, I mean, the cell tower, someone gifted you a rental property for, you know, $100,000 a year, getting rid of it for $2 million. Seems like, I mean.
So can we please go then to our next,
Yeah.
please?
Well, thanks for your comments. This has been decided now, so let's go back to 7.2, the amphitheater seating plan. Now that we've determined there's a source of funding for that, do we need further discussion on that, or are there further questions?
Authorization for Mike to move forward.
Can I add one caveat to that, Will, you know, for Delinda's comments about, you know, maybe is there other opportunities? Knowing that the funds are here, we can go forward, but I would tell you as a board that I will continue to strive to find another option to use for those seating. I can't guarantee it. But I will take every effort, including the shifting of funds, to depend on how the road goes and things like that. So, but we can't wait till we know for sure because of the impact of the construction schedule.
This gives us a big chunk of money to do some more improvements and, not just, I mean, that money can be spent either on the seating or other projects of priorities to us. So if you do find, another source of funding for the seating, then maybe do some more projects.
Right, let's go back to 7.2.
Okay, further discussion on that one, John? No? No? Anybody want to formulate a motion?
I will, make a motion to approve the amphitheater, plans and renovation budget per, the document with a total of 700, not to exceed a total of $777,248.
Is there a second? And moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Looks like it's unanimous. Very good. Make some decisions. So now we'll move on to 7.3, which is a discussion and possible action on the fiscal year 2024-2025 general fund 341A preliminary budget. And this entails approving 4 resolutions. Approving the preliminary budget for the preliminary district budget for Fair Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District, the preliminary budget for the Phoenix Field Landscape and Lighting Assessment District, and also the Gum Ranch Landscape and Lighting Assessment District. Somebody want to?
Yes. Yes. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Larkin. I'm the Administrative Services Manager. And this is our preliminary budget, draft budget that was presented to you this evening. As Director Chair Carhart said, we ask that you adopt all the resolutions that are attached to the report. And we'll start with an overview. So this was discussed with the Finance and Budget Committee on June 4th. So they've already seen this. We'll go through our expenditures. We'll start with, let me see that, so I'm going to look it up.
Who was the Finance and Budget Committee?
That is Director Timoney and Director Irwin. All right, so salaries and benefits. We will start with that one. So there is an increase this year totaling $344,000 over what we budgeted last year. That's a big number, so I've broken it down here for you. So with regular step increases for all of our staff that are eligible, we also increased exempt salaries for our rec supervisors and accountant, which is tied to the minimum wage increase. We started that last year for the rec supervisors. We're now including the accountant. That's about $136,000 additional. Actually, that's not right. That's not the right number. It should be $78,000. Sorry, that's a wrong number. Stop recording. We're also adding 2 full-time workers, a park worker and a theater tech at mid-year. So those are about $77,000 total for those 2 positions. That includes salary and benefits. We are requesting to reinstate our part-time admin assistant 1 to assist with accounting. That will be a regular part-time position. About $25,000 is budgeted for that. There's an increase to the part-time recreation staff for new programming, about $11,000 over last year. There are some increased part-time hours for parks as well. So the reopened facilities of about 8.8 thousand. That's about 500 additional hours. There's an increase in CalPERS retirement costs. There's a 2% increase to the employer contribution rates, and then our unfunded liability payment increased another $20,000 over last year. Our group insurance is going up about $61,000, and there are some ancillary increases as well with unemployment insurance, which is tied to salaries, as well as workers' comp insurance. So altogether, a $344,000 increase over last year. That's about a 14% increase.
How much increase? 344?
344
That's increase over.
over last year's budget.
This includes a heck of a lot of things that the board, over the course of the last year approved individually.
Yes.
Including a lot of things beyond our control, like benefits and minimum wage and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
What items, are there any items here in approving this that have not been added on?
Yes, that would be adding the regular part-time position in admin, the admin assistant one. The increase in part-time park hours and recreation part-time staff. I think that's it. So the tech person was already approved.
But, okay.
The concepts, not the
Concept.
position itself.
That's
They did
fine.
agree to use ARPA money for that position. So that's included here. You'll see that back in July, I believe.
Now, are we continuing to fund the park police this next year?
Yes.
Yes.
Has that gone up or is it something?
Sean, do you recall that? I think it stayed the same.
Yeah, I don't think there was an increase.
We saw the stated contract this year.
Well, we haven't seen the current one yet. It's coming still from FEC, but through those, well, you weren't at those. So. I would say the same.
But that's included. Okay, that's all my questions. Any other board questions? Jennifer?
Okay, property taxes are likely to go up 5%.
Yes. We can move to services and supplies if you have any more questions. I did want to add also, this is not on the presentation, but there is a COLA request pending from the Employees Association of 3.9%. That's about $55,000. And then there was a salary study done, which is an undetermined impact to the budget at this point, but you'll see that back in the final budget.
When is this salary request going to come up? Not tonight.
No.
It's not included.
It'll be included for final budget because we need to have a better understanding of what our end of year numbers look like before we can bring that back to you.
So as it stands, we're contemplating 3%, but the salary survey may change that.
Yeah, the salary survey, the request was an 8% increase across the board, based on benchmarking that was done. However, there's further analysis that needs to be done on the positions that are asking for the increases and what that looks like. So we'll bring that back to you. I think the total cost for that was $130,000 additional if we did that.
So John mentioned the increase in revenues from property taxes.
Yeah, we'll get to the revenues. I do have some info on that. Our services and supplies went up about 73,000, 74,000. Yeah, and the bulk of that is having to do, if we have to do an election, there's a contested election, it's a $55,000 cost. The county increased its fee for services for the elections. So that is going to be our cost. If we do need to do that, we're adding some additional, we're doing one more activity guide next year. This year we did 2, we're going to add 1 more for next year. That's another 10,000. Reopening all the facilities across the street is going to just increase costs in general for maintenance and parks and all that stuff. About 30 to 35,000. There's also a small increase in tax collections from Sac County. They implemented a new system, which we are helping to defray the costs of for the next 2 years. All right, so revenues. Property tax increase of 5%, 116,000 additional dollars there. Our assessment districts are increasing 3%. For 2 of them, no increase for the Phoenix Field. That's about 34,000 more. Recreation and arts and entertainment revenues, there's an increase of 50,000. That's from last year's budget. That's in anticipation, obviously, of things opening across the street. Facility rental revenues, again, an increase based on reopening our facilities. That's about a $64,000 increase. Cell tower revenues. There's 3% escalator. If we sell them, we will have to fund that through some other means. And then our interest and investment earnings have increased significantly over the last couple of years. I believe it's because we have a lot more money sitting in the county treasury, and in addition, Jamie just emailed me or texted me and said that the rate of return, the interest rate for the county is at 5.38%. So it's increased a lot.
That updates your 3%.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So the total revenue increase is 272,000, which does not fill the full gap. So there's some other sources of funding that we'll be looking at. We are requesting $55,000 from the fund balance to fund the election costs if we need to. If we don't need to, that money will be moved. $50,000 rollover for the contingency because we didn't spend it this year. It'll just roll over for next year. $52,000 from ARPA funding for the theater tech position and 500 hours of part-time park assistance for opening the facility, and then $150,000 from our FOLL fund balance. We have a very large fund balance in there right now, and we really shouldn't. It should be spent in parks, and so we're requesting to move 150 of that into this year's budget.
How much is in that balance right now?
It's 281 right now. That's a lot. It shouldn't be that high. There was money that was not moved at the end of fiscal year 22, so it's been sitting in there and it should be spent. So the total other funds is 257,000, and that will close our gap. And this is your capital plan that was approved in April. There's a total of $310,000 budgeted. That includes renovation of this lovely facility that we're in right now, upgrades to the air conditioning, the roof, and some minor improvements inside in the hopes that we'll use it for some office space, at least for a while. And then there, and then you also approved 150,000 for district master plan update. If we do that, that'll come from our impact fees. A district vehicle in anticipation of having another park worker. That will come from our in lieu fees or our general fund balance. That hasn't been determined. That will obviously come back to you when and if we're going to purchase that vehicle. And then a couple of equipment items, tables for the village facilities. We need to upgrade our tables. We've had those for a while and they are in need of some new tables. And then a trailer and barrier fencing for events. This will enable us to not have to rent fencing. And if that's very costly. And so if we purchase our own, we'll be saving money over the long term.
This is stuff that's already approved.
Already approved. Yes. And the last slide is our fund balances. So currently in our reserve fund, we have 560,000. Our carry forward fund, there's 1.1 million. The FOLL carry forward fund is at 281,000. There's 39,000 in the Phoenix Yield carry forward fund, 101,000 in the Gum Ranch LNL, and our impact fees are at 1.7 million. All of those together total 4.1 million that we have in savings. Not all of those funds can be spent on everything. A lot of it is earmarked for specific things. The LNL districts can only be spent on very specific things, as well as the impact fees has to be spent on construction and expansion of facilities and parks. Our reserve fund and carry forward fund are for you to spend as you decide. And just a note that the $1.1 million in the carry forward fund includes 517,000 that is going to be reimbursed to the bond fund for the Strang Park costs that we've been sitting on for a couple of years. That's the end of the overview. And if you have,
can you say more about the reimbursement on the Strang Park?
Yeah, when we paid for Strang Park, we paid all of it out of bond funds, I believe. And so you had approved some of that to be paid out of impact fees, and we just have not reimbursed the bond fund with those yet.
This is an aside question, but are we spending all the Gum Ranch income there at Gum Ranch?
We do have a fund balance, and that is, there are several projects that have been earmarked for that, for the use of that money. Some of it is
in the capital program.
It hasn't been, no, we haven't seen that yet. There's,
I'd like to recommend we look at,
yeah,
this is out of order, but I'd like to recommend we look at a disc golf place there because we've got a lot of surplus land there behind the creek.
there's, okay, that's great. And we have a number of other projects, that are not relocating.
Who knows?
There's
I
also, we
think
also,
we have an opportunity there, so that's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, using some of those funds and our consultant for this, we may ask him with, or her, with looking at Gum Ranch, saying, is there something possible? We may.
Is that it, Jennifer?
yes, that's it for the overview. And then, I can answer questions about specific items or categories if you want.
Are we gonna have a separate discussion of each of the assessment districts, or is this all?
No, this is
Okay.
all.
We've always done it.
Yeah. And what was the, I assume this was recommended to go forth by the committee?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Any questions? Anybody want to form a motion?
One of the committee members want to make a motion?
Yeah, Raymond James and I, we looked at the preliminary budget together and we were satisfied that it's balanced and that we're meeting both the needs of our community and also spending the money responsible. So we support it.
So I'll make a motion to adopt, and make the motion in all of the resolutions. It's one promotion. Adopt resolution number 061924 -01 -02 -03 and -04.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I hear that unanimous, so I won't ask for opposition. Okay, thank you. Okay, we've done 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. So 7.4 is discussion and possible action on fiscal year 2024, 2025 bond fund 341C preliminary budget. We have a resolution there that needs adoption.
Yes, this budget may be the last one for 341C that you guys see and get to pass for, looking at the last of the bond funds. It's about 7.7 million right now is what we still have left in the county. The outstanding amount for the Village Park project is 7.4 million. That includes the BOGO change order, just in case that happens. It's in here. And then there are some reimbursements that we'll still be getting. So, you're looking at having a surplus at the end of this. Probably.
I would hope so.
To do some of the other projects. There are some reimbursements, as I said, String Park, there's a couple of grants, from Prop 68. It's about 420,000. There's an electrical vehicle charging stations grant of 50,000, and then the Omnibus funds, which we received 2 years ago, right? We haven't received funds yet, so that's 560,000. So the total outstanding reimbursements and grants is 1.55 million. We also have potentially the money from Padilla, which is 1.4 for the road work, and some of the other items for ADA access. So we will send that back to you.
What's the one we just heard that was put forth to Congress?
The PIDIA, yes, the PIDIA funds, the 1.4, yeah. That's the Senate appropriation
Senate.
funds,
And how much is that?
1.4.
So we don't know on that. That's not
Well,
included.
The Senate has to vote, but historically, the recommendations do vote.
I looked at the list of all the projects there, and ours looks pretty good compared to some of the places.
Yes, we are pretty hard pressed to cut an ADA project.
Yeah. Good writing on somebody's part.
So the resolution for this is at 9.5 million. That includes the amphitheater seating. And the funding for that was to be determined, but it's included in the revenue, whatever form it's coming in. And that's it.
Motion.
What did the committee say? This was finance and
Finance and budget, yes.
committee.
Yeah.
We'll entertain the motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure. Make the motion, excuse me, to, approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 bond fund 341C preliminary budget and adopt resolution number 61924-05, approving the preliminary budget for fiscal year 2024.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah. Okay, that passes unanimously. Very good. Okay, now we can get back in order here. We've done, we've done 7.4, 7.5. Okay, we need 7.6, a discussion and possible action regarding approval of the MOU with the Employees Association for July 1st, 24 to June 30th, 27. It's a 3-year MOU.
Yes. This item is the adoption of a memorandum of understanding between the district and the Employees Association. On May 14th, staff, the district administrator, met with the Employees Association to review and discuss changes to the MOU that they brought forward and to discuss ones that he was bringing forward as well. Following that meeting, the Employees Association and the district administrator and the Personnel Management Committee met on June 3rd. The requests were all recommended except for one, and so we can start with that one. The district administrator brought to the Employees Association the recommendation that the district adds Juneteenth as a paid holiday. Currently, the district has 13 paid holidays. This would be the 14th. This has been something that has been bubbling around for the last 3 years since it became a federal holiday, and the county has now added it. The state has added it in with an additional floating holiday, not, I believe, actually Juneteenth. And then a lot of the smaller municipalities in this area have also added it. Director Irwin requested some additional information. He wanted to know the cost of adding a holiday and how much the staff time was going to cost. So I did a little analysis. The cost of a full day of all the 21 represented positions on any day, including a holiday, would be $5,400. And then the positions are listed in the staff report. But the budgetary impact, I think, is more in line with what Director Irwin was wanting to know. There's obviously the loss of productivity for the staff that's not there, which is, there was no dollar figure attached to that, but we would still remain open. The park will be open as with all of our holidays, and then recreation programs may still run depending on how that works out. Most specifically camp. And so I did some analysis on the cost. I asked Sean to give me a regular schedule for his part-time staff. The average cost per day of his part-time staff is $298 a day. If we had to add some additional part-time parks hours on holidays, which means they would just have longer shifts, there's an additional, it costs about $18 more a day, $316. So there's a slight increase to cost. And then recreation, summer camp, may not cost anything additional. We do have a provision in our personnel policy manual that full-time staff can be asked to work on a holiday if they get time off in lieu of that holiday. So if we did have to pay holiday pay, it would be approximately $200 difference for that one day. And then the other option would be to close camp for the holiday. That would cost us some additional revenue potentially if they prorated it, as they do with July 4th. If the camp is at full capacity and they did prorate it, it would be a loss of about $6,000.
You can't just extend the camp one day.
I mean,
I guess it's the same.
yeah. So that's all potential. We would have to work that out. So that was the information that Director Irwin requested. Director Mounts is not here. He was also on the committee. So that was the one item that was not, we were not moving forward with that until you all had a discussion about it.
thoughts from the
The one thing that wasn't mentioned as a possibility was that instead of floating holiday, that floating holiday now goes to this. Floating holiday's gone, or it's swapped out with as another potential option that would make it that, it would be an increase to the district's cost.
Linda and John, any thoughts?
I'm fine with it. Please don't close camp. Because then all the parents have to find a
Alternative
alternative childcare on a Thursday.
On that week, won't have,
Right.
because we do that happens with July,
Right.
so we would probably not.
So I I think we ought to be consistent with federal holidays. I think it's silly not to be. You know. But when I look at the leave, the balances we have for compensating time off and all of that, I mean, they're huge dollar amounts, huge hours that people accumulate. I don't know if that's because we don't have enough staff, that people just can't afford to take the time, but it appears employees already can't take all the time they're entitled to. We have huge amounts, and it troubles me every time I look at the charts that are in the consent calendar. So I'm a little concerned about that. I kind of am intrigued by Raymond James' idea of just swapping it out. Now that means the employees are stuck with that holiday, but it does shut down the district for that day, which is good. Did you say we have a camp during Juneteenth?
We probably would, yeah.
But that would apply to any holiday that we give if we have some activity going on.
Yes. Yes. We do we are open. We're open because the parks are open. And obviously exempt staff is available in case there's an emergency. So it's not completely shut down.
I'm just wondering how universal Juneteenth is, but a lot of, I'm sure most government workers would get that. So,
Yeah.
They'd have an extended weekend, but what about private sector?
Government, I don't know about private sector. I did look at a lot of different agencies. A lot of them swapped it, as Director Irwin said, for a floating holiday or a different holiday. The most popular one was Columbus Day.
Still honor Columbus?
Well,
That's what they did at David, like at the UCs, they swapped Columbus Day for Juneteenth. So we no
we
longer
don't-
get Columbus Day.
Indigenous.
No, we don't
People
do
Day,
that
I think
one.
it is.
Yeah.
No, and then what the state did, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, was add a floating holiday and then allow staff to use it for Indigenous Peoples' Day, Cesar Chavez Day, or Juneteenth. And we could, if you decide, add language in the MOU that says the floating holiday is for these holidays.
To be used on any of those.
Is the other floating holiday, does it expire by the end of the year?
It does.
Well, you guys are, it was. which one of you
Darren and
were-
myself.
You and Darren, you wanna propose a motion?
Is it, well,
We'll go through the
yeah.
rest of the MOU.
But I mean,
But-
I would definitely happily put that as a language. I think that makes sense for us to take that.
Perfect.
The rest of the board is open.
All right. And the rest of the items were all already agreed upon, but I'll go through them. Lowering the medical insurance stipend in lieu of benefits, which we currently offer, premiums, the lowest premium in the CalPERS offering of 11 different premiums. We offer that at the lowest rate, which currently is $807. In 2025, that would go up to, actually, it's over $914. So we are recommending capping that at 500. It's when we first implemented it, it was around 500 and it's gone up each year. The Employees Association did vote and agreed on it. So that one will be implemented if you also agree.
So we currently, what's the current cap for a single individual insurance benefit?
For the lowest premium, it's actually I think it's $860 a month. Or 807.
Is that what we currently?
That's what we pay to employees who do not take benefits.
This is in lieu of.
in lieu, yeah.
And this would be changed to what now?
A flat $500 stipend, so it would no longer be tied to CalPERS premiums where it can significantly increase every year.
Yeah, we have many employees that don't.
We have 4, I believe, or 5. I think 5 now. So it's about a third of the full-time staff.
We don't have a cafeteria plan on benefits, do we?
We don't. We are looking at our benefits. You'll see that come back for our next budget year.
Any thought of ever doing a cafeteria plan?
Yes.
I mean, that benefited me a whole lot when both my wife and I were covered by health insurance, and she took life insurance instead from the cafeteria plan.
Yes, that's something that Mike has committed to doing before he retires. So we'll be looking at
It's
that.
a good idea.
Mike did it done list.
It's a good idea.
All right. And then the next item was capping the maximum district contributions to health benefits at 5%. It's currently at 7%. That just means that the maximum rate will not go above 5% of the previous year. That was agreed upon. We removed the tech stipend. We don't need it anymore. We have a tech person, and the Employees Association requested to remove it, so we said sure. We added a reimbursement for prescription safety glasses up to $250. That's for employees who need to wear safety glasses, but have prescription needs, and obviously we want them to be safe doing work where they would need safety glasses and want them to be able to see. This item is agreed upon by everyone.
Who's that covered? Park maintenance or?
Yeah, park, most of parks. Yeah. And then there was a request for the district to purchase park passes for Sac County and a poppy pass for California State Parks. They would be available on a checkout basis, and they could take them up for a maximum of 3 days at a time. The cost of the county pass is $70, or if Mike buys it, we get a senior discount, and it's only $35.
I'm the only one that can use it though.
Captain board member to use it.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes.
Well, that seems good, because anything that gets our staff out and experiencing other recreation things is a good thing for everybody.
Right, and that was the end of the list. The rest of the changes that you can see in the red line version of the MOU is formatting, unfortunately. A lot of formatting. And that's it.
Do we have any comments from you guys? No? Okay.
Actually, sorry, yes, my name is Ian. I'm actually the EA president. I think maybe a little bit more clarification on what the floating holiday, and potentially either, change, what that would be. So either removal of the floating holiday or, and adding Juneteenth, or if I've understood that correctly, using a floating holiday for 3 specific days, if I understood that correctly. What you were saying, Raymond James?
I was saying that this option would be to remove the floating holiday as the Juneteenth. I think Shannon brought up the idea to potentially say your floating holiday could go to one of these things. I would prefer the former, not the latter.
So, what 3 holidays you mentioned? Cesar Chavez Day,
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Indigenous People, and Juneteenth. Would they automatically then get those 3 and then not get?
We don't have any of those currently, so
Oh, you don't?
we would just add language.
We don't have any of those?
No.
How many of those are federal holidays?
Good question. They're all state holidays. They're recognized by the state, but I don't know. I think only Juneteenth. Yeah.
Well, then that would make sense that we could use. Is it for,
Yeah.
one of those?
Well, what if you don't want to take one of those? You just want a floating holiday.
Yeah.
We don't really, people take it for their birthdays or other.
Well, we certainly don't want to cut the number of days they have, but what's unclear in my mind is, are we adding any more vacation days?
I would say, yeah.
No, Director Irwin said he would like us to swap the floating holiday for Juneteenth. the other option was to add language in the MOU that states that you can use it for Juneteenth
Or
in order to
indigenous people,
recognize it,
or-
which is I think what Mike's concern was.
Yeah, my big concern was, I think this holiday, I hate to see it watered down by going, well, you know, you could take it, you don't take it, you know, kind of like Christmas almost. It's like, when it's like, no, this is a holiday that, is definitely, in my opinion, respectful, and should be identified as a holiday.
So just for me, clarify what your motion.
Well, I feel like we did cut off Ian, so I did want to.
Yeah, I wanted clarification on what that specific piece was, and then, I guess, would this need to come back to the, EA to kind of approve it? So if the EA just doesn't necessarily agree with that, I'm not going to speak for them on this one. But I want to make sure that at least we hear from them.
Well, okay, yeah. So we approve it with that amendment. You all can decide what you want to do with that, I guess. I think staff first.
Yeah, I was going to say Jamie actually has something she'd like to ask as well. Or, go ahead, Jamie.
Hello, can you hear me?
A little bit louder.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, hi, I'm Jamie Fawcett. I'm the accountant for the district, and I just want to pepper in my thoughts on this. I do believe as a public entity that we should be recognizing Juneteenth.
Do you
That's it.
you happen to know if those other two holidays, Cesar Chavez and indigenous people, are they federal holidays, or do you know?
Well, I'm fairly certain that Cesar Chavez is a state holiday. I'm not sure about Indigenous Peoples Day. I could Google it. I'm here. But I do feel that we should be recognizing Juneteenth, and I understand we have programs to run, and I think we could make it happen with part-time staff. But we do as a district, in my opinion, need to recognize that.
Federal government has 11 holidays. Yes. Yeah. Cesar Chavez is one of them, but not indigenous people. And
Oh, so it's the other way around.
Okay.
And they did away with Columbus Day, I think.
they switched them. Yeah.
Again, they did a swap too.
That's how the UC system is today. Got rid of Cesar Chavez. Or it is.
Nick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important to recognize Juneteenth. I think some staff may look at it as kind of a way where we're losing the luxury of having a floating holiday to be able to use it when we want to. That works out with our family life and with the way we program. We have limited times that we can take vacations because of programs that we run or events that we have. So the floating holiday is a big benefit to us. If we were to lose and have it rigid to be one certain day, it could be a little bit more challenging for us, but I do like the idea of recognizing the floating holiday as Juneteenth, Cesar Chavez, whatever the other one was, Indigenous people. So, just my input. I think some other staff may also have that same thing.
I guess I'm still a little confused. Those three holidays, are they all three federal holidays?
No.
Which one is not?
Indigenous people. Columbus Day.
They just abandoned that.
We switched it to Juneteenth.
They did again what I am proposing. You're
Yeah.
doing swap.
Well, Cesar Chavez is a state holiday, not a federal holiday.
Yes. Correct.
So,
Well, Juneteenth.
It's a federal holiday. Cesar Chavez is a federal holiday as well.
I'm seeing a list of legal public holidays.
I'm saying that
Independence Day,
swap is
Martin
from
Luther
the
King
any day holiday.
Birthday, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day.
These additional entities didn't get additional days. They made a swap. So I think it's a fair thing.
what would be the effect if we were to offer those two federal holidays plus a floating holiday? Would that be adding an extra holiday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the option of adding the language to the MOU that states the floating holiday will cover the following holidays would recognize the holiday without adding an additional day.
would it recognize the holiday where we could, or we would, I don't know what the internal protocol would be, but like, if, social media, Instagram posts or whatnot, or would we not? If it were an official, would we not? I'm just curious.
Probably, I imagine. We could have a separate board discussion about maybe adding it as an event on the calendar.
Yeah.
Kind of formalizing it in that way to show that the district is recognizing it. Yes.
Yeah,
But
that's
that's how it's separate.
Let's do something.
Yes.
I would like to, I would,
We're still
ask-
working on the agenda. I'm gonna go.
I would ask the board that we send it as, approved with the amendment to swapping out the holiday. That would be my motion. And then we can let the EA decide if they want to come back and present the other option or something else.
Yeah, actually, one way to do it is say whatever the employee association wants, as long as it doesn't add a holiday, right?
I'd rather be a little bit
You could
Okay,
approve the OU minus that piece, and then we can bring that back to you.
okay.
Good idea.
Well, that's
there. You go.
Okay, is that your
So-
motion?
So I would make the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding as exhibiting attachment A without Juneteenth being given this.
Second.
You picked up on that, but any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Eyes are bad enough with no light. 7.7 is the discussion and possible action on the intent to levy assessments for fiscal year 24-25 and provide notice of hearing on July 17th for the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District, the Phoenix Landscape and Lighting Assessment District, and the Gum Branch Lighting and Landscape Agreement. And we have some adoptions of resolutions to go along with that intent to levy assessment. So
Yes, so if you
it's pretty clear, but go ahead. and
You do this
present.
every year. This is the second step in our ability to levy our assessments or approving the engineer's report as well as the resolution that will allow us to do a public hearing at next month's meeting.
Okay, is there any questions from the board on that? I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Anybody like to make the motion, including those resolutions?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution numbers 061924-06-07-0.
That includes levying the assessments.
Yeah.
And providing those here.
Those resolutions.
Okay, for a second,
I'll second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And 7-8, discussion and possible action regarding a resolution proclaiming July as Parks and Recreation Month. Boy, this can be a controversial one. And including, do we need a discussion on that, or do we want?
I'll make a motion. See possible action regarding. Make the motion that we, Fair Oaks Park District, Recreation Park District proclaims July as Park and Recreation Month and adopt resolution number 061924-09, recognizing July as Parks and Recreation Month.
I'll second that one. All in further discussion?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'll be quick on this. Just because my name is Ian. I'm on the D2 board for CPRS. And one of the reasons we always bring this to everybody, and all the other districts do as well. We want to remind the state government that, hey, we're important. We're here. We make life better. And we want to reinforce that with the state government. So that's one of the reasons that we all push this for all of our districts and states.
Very good. You'll want to do that. Any discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And now 7.9, which is a discussion and possible action on payment to the Fair Oaks Water District for water line work on California Avenue. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. What we're looking for here is approval to enter into a cost share with Fair Oaks Water District for our share being $53,353 for some additional water line work that was done during the water line replacement on California Street. The initial contract that you approved back in July of 2021 included a scope that was basically went up just across from the brew pub from the corner of Temescal in California up to the entrance to the clubhouse from California. The water district had continued some work down to Fair Oaks Boulevard after that. And that's the additional work that we're talking about, is that additional work. And that work was just over $106,000. That's why our half was over $53,000. The water district sent us a bill, and we met with the water district and denied the bill as staff. Yeah, and what the reason for denial was because in the contract, it clearly states that both boards have to approve any additional expenditures above the agreed on amount, which was just over $260,000, which is what the water districts paid for that road work. And we are still going to allow them to potentially put a future well site somewhere in Phoenix Park on an agreed upon and approved location at some later date. And so that was the 260 part of the agreement, and that was our part, was to provide that. The work went a little further than we would have liked it to have, but the benefits are still there. The benefits to the village, the benefits are still to us in the project because we did have to move a fire hydrant and abandon a connection and create another connection for that. But the biggest sticking point for us was the fact that it had not been approved by the board. I could not even authorize the payment for it. So Director Carhart and I met with the water district staff, and we had Dave with us as well. And they were trying to bill us specifically for the full amount of $106,000 because that was the contract saying it was above that 260. And the water district did propose, the district administrator there, Tom Gray, did propose that he would be willing to do a 50-50 split if the boards approved that. Their board, the water board, did approve that, and now we are asking for your approval for it.
And one of the things that came up, one of their arguments was that, this is how I perceived it. They could have billed us for that as part of the work for rebuilding our half of the roadway. They could have legitimately billed us the full amount, just as the county or SMUD or somebody else would with work associated with our project. The water line apparently was shallow, old asbestos cement pipe and stuff, and so their position is they could have made that a condition of our project. But the compromise, so that we wouldn't get into an argument with the water district and maintain a really good relationship, is to split the baby. That's what they agreed to do.
And this is a legitimate Measure J expenditure because it is the infrastructure center of the park. So it's not a question if it's a legitimate expenditure.
And will this be the completion of that so that there will not be additional expenses beyond the 260,000?
Again, we're gonna enter into that road work, and I can't answer that question. I hope not. I hope we don't have additional fees.
And once we start modifying the grade of the road, who knows what we'll run into.
Yeah, we have we potholed and done our as best due diligence we can without digging up the road. Yeah.
So somebody want to make the motion?
Yeah, I make the motion that we support the staff recommendation to split the cost 50-50 with the water district.
I'll second that. Any discussion on that? Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Did you vote, Tom?
Yes, aye.
Okay. Yes. All right, so that passes unanimously. Now there's items from the board of directors. Okay, yes, please. Enjoy your evening. Any, anything from the board? Yeah. Items from the staff, Mike?
Sean, anything?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick note that this year we once again received the award of outstanding performance from Capri. It's part of our annual site visit. We go over a lot of different things that they go over with Jen that I have to admit I don't usually understand. So she can probably tell you more about it if you want to know. But essentially just outstanding performance and safety and covering all the requirements of Capri, our insurance provider. So we have received that once again.
Congratulations, that's great.
Thanks.
Jen, did you have anything?
I guess I have one note. I mean, John just walked out, but I wanted to see from the board members that are present who would be interested in being on the committee for the opening of the new center. We're going to start moving on that probably next month. So if the three of you, if anyone is interested, I'll send an email out and let's get that scheduled. So
Opening of what?
of the new facility across the street, the grand opening.
Yes.
You want to be in? Okay.
This would be
He's gonna plan, the whole history of their decided.
Speech.
Oh,
then
sure.
we got one
Zoom, right? Two.
It was speech. We do have to limit it to 2 because of the Brown Act, so just so you all know that.
Oh.
Well,
Well, that's
probably
two.
whoever's the chairman next year, are you the vice chair right now? Yes, so you'll be the chairman next year probably. All of the vote. Yeah. I think Belinda should be if she could.
I would love to.
Okay. I'll reach out to you this.
But I could give a speech if you'd like.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. We'll
You
sign
may
you
have
up.
to add staff time.
Well, I must say, as a part of the Historical Society, 50th anniversary next September, that I will be writing a history of the whole area there, going back to the beginning. Yeah.
Great.
So that we can pass that out. Once we
That's fine.
Nick?
No update.
I did send out an email on this, and I just want to make sure it's put out here in public, but we did make the recommendations to Senator Padilla's office to the Senate for the appropriation of the funds for 1.4 million for the road work around the park, which includes ADA. So it's also the general road work and the ADA work that we have and going into the park itself. So that I want to publicly thank Senator Padilla for trusting us and believing in us enough to put it on his list to go into this appropriations. And when we do get the final notification, we will let you know. But, thank you.
fingers crossed. It looked pretty good when you look at the whole list.
Yeah.
Man, that's a long list of projects.
Yeah, and just so you know, to these, it sounds like simple stuff. It is rather complicated work. It is a lot of time getting to know people in terms of just being able to get to the list, if you will. It's not that they give any special treatment, but you have to know the process and you have to know the best solutions. And this actually, from Omni Bera's office, when I discussed it with his staff, he mentioned to me, because we wanted to go with Padilla's office and Omni Bera's office, he said, put the same application in for both. You'll increase your chances of getting one. And so we did that, and we got turned down by Bera. So it was a nice, it was a great staffer tip to do it that way. So
who prepared the proposal? Thank you. And well done. Any other staff reports? Okay,
Sorry, got a lot to say already.
okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn till the meeting of July 17th.
So moved.
Second.